Let's go.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and we are back for the fans forum. Football is almost back as well. We are going to get right into the next 3 games for Aston Villa before football goes away again for the international break. And we're going to talk about the 3 deadline day signings, where we see them fitting in, and also look ahead to January with all of the problems, the financial issues that Aston Villa faced across this transfer window. Will we be able to spend in January, depending on where we are in the league, depending on the transfer situation as well? So those subjects covered, your questions as well. So please do get your comments in. Please hit that like button as well. Hit that subscribe button. We have surpassed 6,000 subscribers. So once again, thank you so much, all of you, for that. I think this might be your first show since we hit 6K as well, Martin. So we'll get your thoughts on that in a second. And yeah, let's get into it. First of all, Mark, couple of weeks we haven't seen you on the fans forum. Work and other stuff getting in the way. Great to see you, mate. How are you doing? Can't be doing too well after that Ireland result, mate.
All is good. I like rugby myself. I'm into the rugby. I'm into Gaelic football and hurling. I've never heard of football personally myself. As in a national stage, I've always just thought that was just a gimmick. But it is what it is. Maybe they're a bunch of amateurs and they're managed by a dentist. So I can't really be too disappointed with expectations now, Rich. But look, all is good. Reality gets in the way, yourself, and now I have a bit of time for myself to go on to the pod and talk all things Aston Villa and not Ireland, despite my accent. So I might have to change myself to a bit of Scouse for a while.
Yeah. I was going to message in the group chat. Have you got any sort of Brazilian, Argentinian, Spanish? Have you got any sort of other family traits that you could switch allegiances to just for a while?
Well, funny enough, I do have family in Birmingham, so I can't switch my allegiances to England, unfortunately. If I had Scottish, I'd probably do that just as quick, but with English, no, I'm sorry, I can't do
it. Great stuff. Well, talking of, we'll just give a brief shout out to the international scene, because Gary said, as we've seen, the game's finished, Villa players played well, Watkins won a penalty in the last minute as well. And from an Aston Villa perspective, great to see them representing England in terms of getting international caps. Great to see McGinn as well, breaking the caps record for a Villa player, I think, in terms of his national team. But, interesting to see at the end of this game, Konsa, Watkins and Rodgers on the pitch. Rodgers playing well, setting up a goal for Madueke. Konsa scoring a goal. Ollie Watkins winning a penalty right at the end, scoring an offside goal that got disallowed. But, good to see them, I guess, getting into some sort of form, playing some minutes and getting a bit of confidence, because that can only bode well, really, ahead of the next 3 absolutely key games.
Yeah, look, it's always good to see when your players go in international break, whether are they going to pick up a bit of form or not. But gladly, most of our Aston Villa players actually picked up a bit of form, not just the lads for the 3 Lions. Rodgers, Watkins, Konsa doing really well for the national side. So that's going to boost their confidence, hopefully, for the weeks to come. Yuri Tillemans has got himself in on the action.
Played really well.
Cash seems to be the Polish Cafu, but just for Poland, not for Aston Villa.
2 great goals, yeah.
So it goes to show that the lads are well and capable, and maybe this is just a blip in the road. Hopefully, with these new signings, these can kind of kick us off with that bit of momentum that these players now have at the moment. But yeah, like I said, from a Villa perspective, of course, I kind of have to emphasise that one for myself. It was great to see that Watkins, winning the penalty. He had a goal disallowed too, so clearly he's looked like he's going to hit a bit of form. Hopefully, Konsa making good use of his efforts. Rodgers looked really good. So hopefully he brings that back into Villa. And like I said, Tielemans and Cash seem to be on a bit of form as well. And it's good to see that Tielemans was captain in the Belgium team. So it goes to show that leadership is still there.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. And look, talking about sort of players coming back to Villa in some form, yeah, really good to see some of those international players, but they're also going to be welcomed back to the squad with a couple of new signings involved in training, and titled this fans forum, how will the new signings fit in, or where do we see them fitting in? And we've got, Victor Lindelof, who may feature probably ahead of time, or if he does start on Saturday, which I'm sure we'll get into in the Everton preview later on this week. But I think Matty Cash potentially picking up a bit of an injury, so that does open up a spot potentially for Lindelof to slot into. And then you've got Jadon Sancho and Harvey Elliott, who obviously coming in to give us some more attacking threat. You put a tweet out the other day, which was got a lot of attention in terms of debate and conversation around, how you see these new signings fitting in and how you see the formation going forward. So just give us a little bit of a flavour of that, of what you understand to how you see, I guess, Lindelof, Sancho and Elliott potentially fitting into this side.
Well, I think it's a number of things, which obviously when I had put out a tweet about potentially going back to the 4-4-2 or 4-2-2 formation, something that really, stood out for us, and it works so well with the players that we have. And I feel like with the players that we have, with the additions that we brought in, I feel like the 4-2-2 would suit them best as such, because we've always liked to have our left back bombing up the pitch and then essentially having three centre backs with, our right back being a centre back. So maybe that's where I think Konza will go, which leads me to believe that a Victor Lindelof and a Tyrone Mings or a Pau Torres as such will play in those areas, because we all know that Emery is not the biggest fan of having two-footed left backs on the pitch, but obviously he had to do it for the game against Brentford due to the suspension of Ezri Konza. And then when I go into the midfield area of having our double pivot, I think that's perfect for Onana and a Kamara. Now, I know I put up Tielemans and McGinn, but that was only due to the fact of what's available at this moment in time. And then you go into the attacking midfield area, where that's where your 3-2 comes in, or they want to shift out wide. I feel like that's perfect, in my opinion, for either Sancho and Rodgers or Sancho and Elliott, because it would give them that bit more freedom trying to get the ball in between the lines, and that's where Pau Torres become effective. And I think Tyrone Mings is actually very good at that too. A lot of people kind of don't appreciate Tyrone Mings' passing game for that as such. I do think he's very good at it. And before Pau Torres came in, Tyrone Mings' pass percentage was actually in the 90s under Unai Emery. And that just goes to show that he's well and capable of doing it. Yes, is he effective as Pau Torres? Probably not. But he still does his job. So you don't lose that quality in those ranges when you're looking for them. And then when you get to that front two area of someone dropping deep, that's where I think it's perfect for Rodgers or an Elliott. I think, one, it's perfect for Rodgers because he can get that ball deep as we've known him to be and drive that ball forward and lay off a Watkins or an Elliott or a Sancho if they're on the pitch. And then in another way, I think it's perfect for Elliott if he wants to drop deep and then look for a shot from range, because we've all seen what he can do for a shot from range. He's put in the top corner, bottom corner, tested goalkeeper. He's got a wand of a left foot. So it's good to see we have different dynamics now to our attacks, and that's where I feel, and that's the picture there, that's where I feel like that formation there is perfect to what that team is. And I know that's the team at that time that was available. Obviously, Matty Cash being injured, that would mean now, to me, it'll be Konza shifting into right back, Lindelof coming in. And I believe Ian Maatsen will be perfect for this because he's someone who loves the bomb up and down, and he'll have that cover with Tyrone Mings and McGinn on the side. And obviously, Emi Martinez in goals. I know people are probably going to say just Marco Bizot. But that being said, he's still our number one choice goalkeeper. He's still in the club. And we're just going to have to kind of get over this. And us fans, we know ourselves. We're very fickle. So if he makes a big save or saves a penalty and keeps a clean sheet, we're going to love him again. It's just the way it goes in football. The exact same for Ollie Watkins. If he was trying to force a move on Man United and all of a sudden he goes and scores a goal and starts kissing the badge and starts saying this, you're going to love him again. It's just the natural way about it. But like I said, Rich, going back to the point in hand, I feel like the formation that I would like to have for Aston Villa, I think these players would suit it so much. My only worry is Sancho. Not because of his playing ability, but because of his attitude. We've seen it in the past. He throws his toys out the pram when he doesn't get his own way. And if he's being told to press, run around the pitch, he's not that type of player, right? We've seen it before, not just coming here to Aston Villa. It's everywhere. It's been Chelsea, it's been Man United, it's been Dortmund. When this has been the case, he throws his toys out the pram, he wants to force us out a move, and that's kind of been the way. Now, he was on the phone supposedly to Rashford about this move to Aston Villa, and Rashford had nothing but good things to say about Villa, good things to say about Emery. It feels like it's a perfect place for Sancho to reinvigorate his career. But if he's going to do that, Rich, in my opinion, he needs to do the hard work first, Yes, he's been turning up early for training in early times to put the work in, and that's great to see. But you have to do it on the pitch. Don't be just one of these players that they're going to do well for 3 to 4 games. Oh, yeah, it looks great. And then all of a sudden go back to your usual habits, because you need to get rid of your bad habits to be a good player again. And if he does that, and if this is another thing where a player coming in alone and wanting a big move away, then so be it. But that being said, it's World Cup year. Sancho is going to want to do his utmost best for the whole season to be in that World Cup squad. And if that's where it is in Aston Villa, then I welcome it. But if he's going to have his usual habits like we've seen in the past, then he's just going to be rotting on the bench, and loan could be terminated then in January. I don't know which way that one will go. But everyone else, I think they'll fit in perfectly.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more I'm a little bit skeptical on the Sancho signing. It does scream a bit of panic to me. But look, I'm more than happy to be proven wrong. Just playing slight devil's advocate on this one, and I'll get into some of the comments in a second. Actually, let's get into comments on this first. So Kevin says, can't see Sancho starting. He's missed a pre-season. Emery's Kingdom said, Pau Torres has better stats for passes and passes that made chances than Mings. Kevin does also say Elliott has a better chance to start. Carrie said Sancho is the most obvious error in the transfer window. Absolutely no one else was in for Sancho for good reason, but also says it points at a 3 points versus Everton. So we're going to get a 2-1 comeback. All fans are fickle, says Kevin. I'm going to come back onto Emi Martinez because I actually completely forgot about this situation with him being away on international duty. So we'll come back and get people's thoughts, and I'll get your thoughts on that in a minute. Michael says it's in Sancho's hands. Gary said Sancho looked the most excited. To be fair, well, if he was the most excited, I dread to think.
Didn't look it, man.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think there's a tinge of sarcasm there. But yeah, just to play devil's advocate, barring, I'd say, Asensio and Rashford, who came in on loan to kickstart Villa's season, so that it was obvious that they were going to come straight in. Unai Emery hasn't got a track record of putting his signings straight in the side. I mean, you look at Daniel Marlin, you're looking at Evan Gesson, you're looking at Yuri Tillemans, you're looking at Amadou Onana in a lot of cases as well, like being in and out the side. You look at Ian Matson. So do you see that Elliott, and particularly Elliott and Sancho, Lindelof knows what he's coming in for. He's going to be essentially cover, but he could be thrown in straight away. But those two in particular, do you see them actually coming straight in initially, or do you see that as a formation that Emery will almost aim to get to within a certain period of time?
I think with Lindelof, we all know he's pretty much going to be a cover, right, for the centre half area. We get that. But if you put in a good performance here this weekend, if Matty Cash is unavailable, you would be led to believe Victor Lindelof is going to start because he's a senior centre-back. He's got Premier League experience. Why wouldn't you throw him in? If he puts in a good performance, it gives Unai Emery a question. Oh, maybe Cons is probably better at right back. Lindelof here in the middle with a Pau Torres or a Tyrone Mings, we look a bit more solid. But then if he doesn't, you're going to say, right, clearly he's a cover. He's a free transfer. You take it and leave it as it comes. With Elliot and Sancho, I feel like Elliot is actually going to jump in straight away. I'm a big fan of Harvey Elliott. I remember watching the under 21 Euros, and he was the best player by far in that tournament for me. Big game player, big goals, and I just think that he's going to jump in straight away. He's got a point to prove in this Premier League. He was playing for Liverpool under Mo Salah, under McAllister, because he likes to play in midfield as well. He hasn't had his chance to shine. He's been in this league now since he's 16, and we're still waiting to see this explosive season from Harvey Elliott. Can this be the season? Potentially so, because when I look at the squad at the minute, it's hard not to put Elliott in, Rich, due to the fact of, Kamara and Onana are both injured. So that leaves Tielemans and McGinn to play in that double pivot. Malin hasn't exactly hit the heights at the moment. He did look a bit well against Crystal Palace at the start, but kind of faded. Evan Gasson, he's probably one of them players who's going to need a little bit of time to adjust to the league, adjust to the system, which you can forgive because he's coming to a new country. And then Rodgers hasn't hit his form either under Aston Villa, albeit he's doing well in England, but he hasn't done it for Villa so far. That's where I feel like Elliott is going to have the perfect chance to jump in and make that impact, whether that's through the middle or the right. With Sancho, it would lead me to believe he's not going to jump in straight away. But then again, there is a chance that he might, due to the fact of the wingers that played against Crystal Palace weren't exactly up to scratch. So does that lead me to believe Sancho could jump in straight away? Possibly. But at the same time, there's one player I want to throw in the mix, and you said he deserves to start, Rich, and I did see it. I think Emi Buendia should be starting the game this weekend, where you've got potentially, if you're playing a 4-2-2, you've got a Buendia and a Harvey Elliott. And I think that would suit Buendia so much to play in these little pockets, as well as a Harvey Elliott. These could be trickery type of players. That's something that we're missing. Not necessarily pace, because I know that's been the big call so far is pace, but pace isn't the end all and be all. We're not a pacey team, so there's no point trying to go and find something when we haven't got it. So you need to find something else in what we have, and what we do have actually some trickery to try and beat players. We're explosive with the ball, we're quick with the ball. Are we quick without it? Probably not, but we're a possession-based team now. But we need to have ball retention, and I think these players with an Elliott and a Buendia, ball retention can be really key, making the most of their possession, making the most of trying to beat a player. These things can happen. So I just think they'll probably be thrown in straight away this weekend due to the fact of what's available, and then maybe for the weeks to come. And then when everyone's back fit, you might see, be starting to make some questions. If some players were in form, do they come back and start? Does he go back to his usual 11 and usual tactics? And it's like, I don't know, because everything here and it's going well, and all of a sudden we're sitting fourth in the table, say, and it's going so well, and you can't break it.
I'm loving the optimism.
Yeah, well, you have to be though, Rich, because these could be the things that could happen. But then again, that being said, it's the flip of the coin now.
We could remain in 19th.
Shit. We're sitting bottom of the table, right? Onana, Kamara, get on that pitch, Sancho, go back to United. So it's just one of them.
No. And look, I understand what you're saying about the kind of, we haven't got a great deal of pace, i.e. in behind pace, where you can play off the shoulder. But what we want to see is, yes, I think the trickery side of things is correct. I think the intent is to attack is what we want, and the where we break on teams with real purpose and real precise passing. The difference of the last three games has been that passing has been really sluggish and slow. You looked at Morgan Rogers today. I don't know if you saw that he's set up for Madueke's goal, but that was pace from Madueke, but it was purposeful, fast passing. It was Madueke played it into the midfielder. I think it might have been Elliott, and then he carried on his run. Elliott punched it into Rogers. And then Rogers did that flick because he saw Madueke running in behind. He did that flick, and none of the defenders understood what was going on. They didn't read the situation, and then all of a sudden Madueke's in. So then he's quick running with the ball, but it's because it's fast, purposeful passing. You saw Watkins at the end of the game then do that overlap on Rashford because Rashford was running at the defender. Watkins runs round him, does the overlap because they knew and they had real confidence and purpose in what they were doing. He wins the penalty. So I absolutely think you're right in what you're saying. It's not necessarily just because you can have lightning pace and not do anything with that pace. You can have lightning pace and be easy to defend against, but you've got to have real purposeful passing and purposeful play with how you work the ball, where you want to go with it. Are you thinking ahead of the game? Are you
Yeah.
like rather than controlling the ball and then deciding what you want to do? Do you know what you're going to do with the ball before you get the ball? And that's what we want to see. So maybe players like Elliot, maybe players like Sancho, maybe dare I say it, even someone like a Buendia coming in, maybe could they give us that bit of impetus and a bit of drive to kind of push us forward and have that confidence, because that's not what we've seen in those 3 games at the start of this season. Hence the reason why we haven't scored a goal. And beyond that, why we've only really had 6 or 7 shots on target across the whole 3 games. We need to see more than that. We need to see us really causing teams problems and giving them something to think about. And as you said, hopefully someone like a Harvey Elliott, someone like a potentially Jadon Sancho, even Evan Gesson, Emi Buendia, Morgan Rogers getting a bit more confidence back. Hopefully that can happen.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the one thing with these options in attack, I think you need to eliminate a John McGinn. And it's not a case of putting him on the bench. I think he needs to play more centrally. I think he needs to be playing in the midfield, something where he can be robust, compact, faster player that we know John McGinn to be. Not this right winger, creative player. McGinn's not that type of player. He's a central player. And yes, if you shift him out right a little bit, that's fine. I can forgive that. But in my opinion, he's a central midfielder for us. And that's what he plays. That's what he's been playing like on that right side. Some days it works great because, the game's going well, everything looks good, but he's not a right winger. And I think now if you've got Sancho, Elliot, Cassant, Rogers, Buendia, Malum, there's 6 players. Why do we need McGinn in this area now? Is Unai Emery being stubborn with that? Because he has come out and said, yes, we have these players, but we have John McGinn. But to me, that's nearly McGinn out of position. I think McGinn only works out on that right if you're playing a 4-4-2, which kind of comes in nearly to a 4-2-3-1, which enables him to come in through the middle, which we have seen in the past. That's where McGinn is good and comes into use because that's the system that he's designed for. He's not designed for a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3 if he's playing out wide, because then he's stuck out wide. Where in the 4-2-2 or the 4-4-2, he's able to shift in that little bit and open the space for his fullback, which we have seen in the past. So I just think you need to eliminate that attacking option for me, because there's plenty of others now come in since Sancho and Elliott's come in the door.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong there. Michael mentioned that the McGinn question, so I think you've just answered that. Kevin said McGinn in the pivot as Kamara and Onana miss out. McGinn and Cash are different gravy for country, it seems, says Gary. And it does seem like that. It certainly does seem to get a different mentality when they pull on the country's shirt. But like I say, we need them in certain games. We need them in certain situations as well. So let's hope that they've got a bit of confidence, a bit of form back coming into the camp. So one player that is going to come back into camp this week, as I say, I completely went over my head in terms of this situation because I don't know whether it was just because all of the drama of the window, it was like, well, he's gone or he's going, he wants to go, and then he sort of, it's almost like out of sight, out of mind when the players go, particularly the South American players or the African players go, because it's kind of left to their own in country media, and sometimes a story comes through and translates through, but there hasn't been too much from Emi. I think his brother maybe said something, but nothing specifically from Emi Martinez. So maybe that's something that's interesting that he hasn't commented. He hasn't done any interviews yet. Maybe there's been some sort of quieting down, just ease things, just go and play your football, just quieten down and then come back. But Michael said, Emi is still our player. Yes, I'm pissed, but life is too short, so I won't allow any hate in my heart. So, yeah, how does Emi Martinez sort of integrate himself back into the squad? Is it a case of comes back into the dressing room, gets a bit of banter from the lads in terms of, oh, sorry, they put a Man United shirt on his dresser on his in his locker or something like that, just to have a bit of a joke, and then he goes to the crowd at Everton's ground and sort of gives it a bit of a I'm sorry, I'm here, that sort of thing, and then he's all forgiven, or does he have to really work at integrating himself back into the squad?
Well, look, I think first things first, we need to look at the situation before we kind of talk about that. The situation was he was linked to Man United. Uh, G'day, mate.
It Bobzini, it's Martin tonight. Kev is back very soon, but great to have you watching from Brisbane,
And I
mate.
know where
You're an
Brisbane is,
absolute
Bobby.
legend.
It's only an hour from the Gold Coast. I was in Brisbane before watching the Brisbane Heats and the Big Bash last Australian summer, I should say, when everyone else here was actually very cold. So, love Brisbane. I really do. But back to the Martinez situation now. He was linked to Man United. And the understanding was he was only going to join United if Lemens fell through, and we were going to sign Lemens supposedly, or Diogo Costa, one or the other. But Unai Emery, now the reports are saying that it was Unai Emery who's decided not to put Martinez in the squad, or it was Martinez decided not to play. You don't know which one is going to be true. You'll never know. But I think he's going to have to integrate himself in the squad, Rich, because it was either he decided not to play for Villa against Crystal Palace, only to be not the primary target for Man United. He was only the second choice if this deal fell through. Yeah, personal terms are agreed, but should he have not understood a situation where, right, I'm only going to join this club if they don't sign a goalkeeper? Like, that's it. What should that tell you as a player? That should tell you, well, if I'm not number one, I'm just going to play here for Aston Villa. Like, that's it. Because where should you accept? It's like you and your job, Rich, right? Oh, yeah, Rich, we're happy to hire you, but we're just waiting for someone else to say yes. But if he says no, you have the job. That's like, well, if you don't want me in the first place, why am I sitting here? Is my agent talking to United? Why is my agent going through representatives? Why is everyone doing this only for me to be a second fiddle? Because all summer for Martinez, it kind of seemed to be that, he was only going to join United if they sold Onana. He was only going to go to Atletico Madrid if Oblak was leaving. It seemed the situation for Martinez was he was only going to leave Aston Villa. One was that if the starting goalkeeper was leaving the club, and then two, if one club didn't sign the goalkeeper in the first place, because if they'd gone to sign Lemens, well, Onana was still there. Yes, he's gone on loan now to Trabzonspor, but he was still there. Why couldn't United have done that in the first place? Because this is where, if I was Emi Martinez, it's no, I'm not going to accept this. I'm going to wait until someone either comes in for an offer and makes me their primary target. Why should I have to be second fiddle? I've won the World Cup. I've won the Copa America. I've got the Golden Glove. Like, he's the two-time Aston Trophy winner, two-time best goalkeeper winner. If that's not enough to make you be a number one to try and sign for somebody, you shouldn't accept it. And if it was a case of he decided not to play and that was the reasoning, I'm sorry, Rich, but he would have to integrate himself back into the squad, regardless of what he's done for Villa, regardless of what he does for Argentina. He probably will start, but for me, it's going to take a long time for me to say, Emi, get your stuff together here. You didn't get your move, so what? But you shouldn't have thrown your toys out the pram and decided not to play against Crystal Palace because you were only a second choice target. And if these are all the accolades you have, and you're only second choice, put on your Villa top, play the best out of your ability, and get on that pitch and show me why we love you. Because he should have played.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I don't know how much of it was Emi Martinez angling for the move. Like we're led to believe it was almost as far back as January. He was talking about, potentially he could have been on the move, and Man United were interested in him, and he was kind of almost saying goodbyes to the players. But then it was almost an element of Aston Villa were prepared to listen to offers for any player in this summer because of the financial situation, because of what we had. Ollie Watkins could have left, Morgan Rogers could have left. In the end, it was Jacob Ramsey that moved on. And then you've got this bizarre story that Martinez was at Bodymore Heath all day on the Monday waiting for a phone call from Manchester United to kind of do this deal. But like you said, it was like Sonny Lemons was the main target and was always the number one. So something doesn't add up to me. Not that I really care that much, but I'm just interested to know who was the instigator in the deal, because if Martinez was the instigator in the deal to want to go to Manchester United, that kind of changes it a little bit in terms of how he was viewed in the squad, how people would have reacted to him if it was from January that he wanted to go. Because that then brings all sorts of stories. Like there's all sorts of stories about Alexander Isak and downing tools after Newcastle won the Carabao Cup because he didn't want Newcastle to necessarily qualify for the Champions League. So how was Martinez viewed in the dressing room and certain situations that happened across the season last season? That brings that into play if he kind of had his heart set on and he moved to Manchester United. But if he didn't, and it was the club that was saying, look, we think we can make some money on this, Man United are interested, blah, 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 then that again changes the mentality of it. But then, as I say, you can't get away from this point that he was allegedly sitting waiting for a phone call all day. Like you can just imagine this image of Martinez just staring at the phone, just waiting for it to ring, and then no one calling, and then him having to just drive back home knowing that he's not got a move, and then all of a sudden sees a goalkeeper coming. Because that happened. I know they were saying that Villa were preparing a bid for this Costa from Porto, but bloody hell, they'd have had to have got the deal done in pretty quick fashion if that was all done at like 5 to 7 on Monday. So like I say, just something doesn't quite add up to me.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you there. So something doesn't add up, but whether it's the instigator Martinez or the club, I have a sneaky feeling this has been instigated by the agents because at the start, supposedly they were talking to representatives from January. So that led me to believe that it's been the agents that have been trying to push this move. They've been trying to do this, trying to do that. But other clubs obviously had other goalkeepers in mind. So this has been the case for me. Has the agent been feeding Martinez's ear saying, look, you're going to go here, and not saying he's second choice like these reports have come out? Because let's be honest, if that has been the case, does Emi not use social media? Because look at the amount of people that are in the news. Look at the newspapers, Twitter, Instagram, you name it. Does he not read to say, well, hang on a minute here, you told me I was going, now look, they're getting him. So what happened here in the space of a week? So for me, I just think that Martinez should have been a bit more professional. He should have just been playing and to do this waving goodbye stuff. Now, I do believe the media read too much into that. I really do, because that was clearly a perfect thing for the Sky Sports or any other media journalists, because they were jumping on it straight away. It was straight away on Twitter, everything. From a man who was like,
he could have just been gutted the fact that he got sent off, that Villa didn't qualify for the Champions League. That could just as simple as that.
Or it was the last home game at Villa Park, and he was just saying, goodbye for the summer. That could have been it, because you don't know, so.
Oh yeah, because it was after the Spurs game.
Yeah, it was the Spurs game. So
you
could have just been the last home game of Villa, and he's saying, goodbye to the fans. Glad I gave you a win. Glad I gave you a clean sheet. And when you're reading too much into it from journalists, from Sky, all these links then start coming in and news, and then the one when you bring up with he was supposed to be sitting in Bodymore Heath all day. Let's be honest, daylight savings is gone now. It's getting dark by 6 o'clock here. So it's clearly going to get dark at about halfway where you are. And then there was a picture of him in Birmingham Airport, obviously flying to Argentina for his international break. Some people thought, oh no, he's going to Man United. And I was kind of thinking, well, hang on, look at the time to
Yeah.
how he
To be
how he
fair, it
put
was
that.
still light. I think it's about 7:30 it gets dark at the minute, so it would probably still light. To be fair.
Probably still a bit light, but it was looked very bright outside to the picture that he put up. So to
Oh
me, that was
yeah,
just
yeah,
kind of saying, well, he's going on an international break,
yeah,
because he
yeah,
had
exactly.
the
Yeah, he was
flag on.
already away. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so
He was there. Yeah,
this
yeah,
alleged thing of maybe sitting in the room. Now, look, we
yeah.
don't know how true it is, but I suppose he's sitting in the room and ringing Martinez. Oh, tell the manager like I'm here waiting for this phone call. And I don't think Emi would be that desperate, and if he
Nah.
was, I'd be very surprised.
Yeah, yeah. Few comments, then we'll finish up the Emmy business in a second. So where have we got? Kevin says no one knows if Martin has instigated a move. Exactly right. Man United done him over, says Michael. Gary said hopefully form goes off a cliff.
That
Love
joke's
it.
never
I used to
failed.
love that game when I was a kid, Lemmings. And Gary said it's his super agent Mendes, of course, not so super now. James said hopefully it pisses Emi off and he saves his best game for against United. Well, yeah, we definitely owe them one this season. Definitely. Bob Zini, I reckon he got played by United. He will be back ready to go for Villa. The lads will give him some stick, but he'll be fine. There's a lot of BS linking players to Villa who never join. This is why I always wait until I see the player holding the shirt. Most of the journalists and United fans wouldn't believe anything they say. And Stephen says too much BS coming out from the club or not. Players should just come out and clean it all up. Sometimes they definitely should. I agree with you, Stephen. But just to round this off, Martinez, clean sheet, saves the penalty, gets us a win against Everton. All will be forgiven, won't it, Martin?
Yeah, I'm a fickle fan too. So yeah, if he does that, yeah, I'll love him
Save the
again.
penalty against Jack Grealish as well.
Oh, you know what? If he does that, that would be lovely because he left Villa. He decided not to join Ireland, even though we lost to
Exactly.
Argentina. If it's all coming back to me now, and I'm just kind of thinking, you know what? I'm a bit of Argentinian. I have family of Argentina now, so maybe put my allegiances over there.
Guys, please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. As I say, we passed 6,000 subscribers on the road to 10k. So please, you guys have helped us hit that 6k. You guys can help us continue on the road to 10k. So like, subscribe, nearly 200 in the chat, which is amazing stuff at 20 past 10 on a Tuesday night in international break. So fantastic support for the channel. Keep hitting that like button as well. Keep your comments flowing in. So I think this will just be a quick subject, but I think you might raise the question with regards to kind of Aston Villa surpassing or passing the latest test in the UEFA rules or spending rules.
Yeah.
And then also these sanctions being around for sort of the next 2 to 3 years, which seems strange now we are kind of continuing in European competition. Hopefully we continue in European competition. But the sale of Jacob Ramsey, the other sales that potentially could be made as well in the summer, in the winter, I think and Chair is almost at the stage where he's going to be signing for this 15 million euros. One or two other sort of buyback deals as well that might be, or clauses that might be met by January. Subject to where Villa would be in the league and whether they need to push on to continue a Champions League spot, or whether they would need to hopefully, maybe it's a case of kick-starting the season, maybe it's a case of cover for injuries, whatever it is. Do you envisage Aston Villa being able to have some wiggle room in the transfer market in January? Do you think they pushed it right to the limits, as maybe Jacob Tanzo was insinuating in his article in The Athletic? Or do you think they left a little bit behind in terms of being able to maybe make some moves in the market in January?
You never know the full truth here. We're not really in that ballroom with Finnegan, Monchi, and other staff members, that are working behind the scenes so hard. And Finnegan obviously opened up in his award night last season saying that if they didn't make Champions League, it was going to be a tough summer. And obviously that proved to be true. But I think obviously there was a picture put up I had seen on Twitter with like a sticky note of saying Elliot loan plus permanent £35 million. And then there was other few things in there as well that wasn't clear because it was blurry enough. You know yourself, when you're putting them little links out, it doesn't really get a clear picture. But I think maybe there is a little bit of wiggle room in January, only if there's a sale of a player, in my opinion. Maybe not high. Like you said, like an Enzo Barrenechea looks like his, clause of an obligation to buy, or sorry, the option to buy looks like it's going to be triggered due to the fact of the appearances that he's made. That could probably give us a bit of wiggle room, but only, I say, in the loan market, like a bit of a Rashford and an Asensio situation. But if you were selling, say, Morgan Rogers, which has been supposed reports of £100 million bid from Tottenham in January for him, how true that is, I don't know. Maybe that gives us a hell of a lot of room. Obviously, we've proven to UEFA that we're complying in the rules, and we've made the efforts. Like it was, they knew we weren't going to get it down straight away. So the agreement was that if we were showing efforts to be compliant, then they'll let us have a bit of leeway and be a bit more lenient in future transfer windows. So I think there is a bit of wiggle room left because we didn't do so much. Yes, we did a bit in deadline day, but we didn't set the world alight as such. The only good sign I think that's come out of this is Gonzalez and Elliot. The rest I'm a bit nervy about, but I just think that you might see something big in January. I really do. I have a weird feeling about January that there's a bit of wiggle room because, like I said, Rich, we've not been in that boardroom. I think there's something there that's coming in January.
Could well be. How do you see the squad now in terms of its makeup? Like, do you think we've got enough? Do you think we've got enough to get us through the season? Do you think we've got enough to get us through to January? If so, why? If not, where do we need to improve if we could in January?
I think we need to improve the defence now. We've gone through so many windows of bolstering our midfield, trying to bolster our attack, wing options, striking options. We've not done enough, in my opinion, to get more centre-backs in. I've not seen enough to get a right back in or a goalkeeper that's going to either take over Emi Martinez or challenge him to make sure that he stays the number one. I think that area of the pitch for me is showing too much complacency from the players because they know they're starting. That sort of way, Rich. When Dean Smith was there, he had Cash, Konza, Mings, Digne. The other day was the exact same defence. Mings, Cash.
Well, sorry, mate. Digne was a Gerrard signing, but
it was Gerrard signing. Sorry,
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Though.
We've had that consistent back four now since Emery's come in. Now, does he love the consistency in his back four? Obviously. But we need to look at the bigger picture here. Dean is not getting any younger. Mings is not getting any younger. And I'm just trying to think, we need to strengthen that area. Bringing in Axel Disasi in January last season worked perfectly. It gave us a different dynamic in defence. It gave him a different role. I felt it was perfect. We looked stronger defensively. We're having someone there going, oh, he might take my spot. Let's lift it up. We don't have that now. Because Lindelof, we all know, is going to be a cover. That's it. There's not a player that's come in my opinion, that's going to say, I'm here to start. And that's the end of it. Look how much they paid for me. I'm here to start. So I don't care which one of you is getting dropped. I know I'm the one that's starting. That's the player we need, in my opinion. Whether it's right back or centre half, we need someone to come in and go, yes, I'm starting and I'm here to lift this defence up. Or if it's a goalkeeper, doesn't matter. I feel like the goalkeeping and defensive area for me is where Villa will need to strengthen in January big time, because I feel like we're stacked in midfield. I think we've more than enough. Attacking wise, I think we have enough. Maybe another striker, which we've been calling out for, but we keep getting young players and sending them out on loan. That's
yeah.
that's going to be too complacent then for Ollie Watkins. So we need someone in there that's going to say, Watkins, guess what? Tough. I'm starting. Look how much they paid for me. So them type of areas, I think midfield were pretty fine. Attack is okay. It's defense and goalkeeping for me where it's time to improve and swipe the slate clean a little bit.
Yeah. Gary said, didn't know right back position had been retired, stuck with Cash. Yeah, Ross says the age of the squad is starting to concern. It is a little bit. And Richard said, we just need Emery to take the handbrake off. Hopefully that will be the case. And we will comment on a couple of other clubs because a bit of news over the course of the international break with two clubs that are probably vying for European spots with Aston Villa, although maybe one of them might have ruined their chances with the new managerial appointment, but we'll see about that. Just rounding off on the kind of talking points that I wanted to make, the 3 games coming up before the next international break, it always seems a bit strange, this kind of start to the season, because you never really get going. It's like, can you pick up some points in sort of without sort of playing too well or without sort of hitting your straps? And unfortunately, Villa are only on 1 point from the first 3. These next 3, how do you see them playing out? Obviously, we're going to do a full preview later on this week for the Everton game, but just as a 3 as a whole, Everton, Sunderland, and Fulham, how do you see them playing out? And how many points do Villa need to get to kind of keep their season on track?
9. It's as simple as that. It's 9 or 7 for me because you don't want to be playing catch up, Rich, because we seen it last season. We were playing catch up, and it was always going to bite us when there was going to be one blip along that way, and that proved to be in the final day of the season or the loss against Man City. It needs to be 9 or 7 because we've gone 3 games now, 1 draw, 2 defeats, and concerning performances. For me now, after international break, the lads have been on good form, plenty of high-flying confidence coming in. We need to be on the front foot. It's as simple as that for me, and I'm not going to be accepting anything less. Anything less than 7, 6, maybe, I'll take it. But anything less than that, you're talking we're in trouble, and confidence will be down, momentum's not going to be on our side. And then you're going into January again, like last season, sitting that mid-table area, trying to get in some bit of quality in, and you're trying to scramble around a bit of money with the situation that we're in. We need to be on the front foot for the next few weeks, try and get some confidence high, try and sit in a good position in the table, and then say, right, can we add 1 or 2 more maybe to help with a bit of cover and rotation? These are the things that we need to be looking at. But the first things first, it needs to happen on the pitch before it happens off it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do make it right. I mean, it's going to be easier said than done because, as I said, nothing in the 3 performances, to me, has suggested that we're anywhere near to be getting 7 to 9 points from these 3 games. If you're looking at the level of performance, we haven't scored a goal. We've hardly had a shot on target. We don't look like we're going to create a chance. That being said, we come back off the international break and 1 win, 1 little break of the ball, one good performance can turn that around, because as we know, you're trying to sort of pick up points when no one's really hit their stride. No one's really hit the ground running as such. So it is difficult, but as you say, if you don't pick up results in this second batch before the international break, you're all of a sudden sitting on, 4 points from 6 games, 3 points from 6 games, or even, like you said, if you pick up 2 wins and a draw, 2 wins and a defeat, it's still way better than the previous 3, but that's only 7 points from the first 6 games. You want to be looking at 2 points per game, because that's what Unai Emery, or 1.8 to 2 points per game, because that's what Unai Emery has set himself up for every season. Is how are we looking points per game wise? Because that puts you into the run of the move. Is it Fulham we're playing, or is it Burnley?
I
need to
think
check the fixtures.
it's Everton, Sunderland. and it's not Leeds.
No, I can't remember if it was Fulham. It might even be Burnley. I might be
It's
wrong.
Fulham. It is Fulham. It is Fulham. It's Everton, Sunderland, Fulham.
Yes, it is. But we have Burnley, so it's four games. Sorry, before the international break, it's
Hmm.
4 games and it's 2 Europa League games.
And it needs to be 12 or 10.
Yeah, yeah. So it's
So,
it's Everton away, Sunderland away. This is Premier League. Everton away, Sunderland away, Fulham at home, and Burnley at home. So yeah,
yeah,
I
you
mean
need.
they're definitely winnable games, aren't they? But you're looking at, even if we just win the home games, that's still 6 points from seven. 6 points from 7 games. That's not great. And
It's not.
look,
It's not.
Kev, I understand you are so positive, and I love it. I love it. But I have to. I'm a type of person who looks at the situation that we're currently in, and I'm looking at it and saying, it's great to have the faith, but I need to see a bit of evidence. And I understand the evidence might be from before, what Unai Emery's done before. That's great
Hmm.
because we had 8 wins out of the last 10 games, which was phenomenal. And I hope that happens. But we've got it. We've got to turn it around, and I really hope we do on Saturday. I'm going to the game. Really hope we do.
Yeah.
And I think a win will really kickstart it and will really push us on, because then you're looking
Yeah.
at Sunderland away, Fulham at home, Burnley at home, and it takes on a completely different complexion, doesn't it? Beat Everton in their new stadium. We've got a good record against Everton. It takes it to a completely different complexion those next 3 league games. Beyond, obviously, then you've also got Europa League in there as well. You got Bologna at home, Feyenoord away. Bologna at home, Feyenoord away, and you've also got Brentford away in the Carabao. But at the same time, you don't pick up a result there, all of a sudden, then you're looking at that next league game, or then it adds an extra importance onto that Carabao Cup game, because then you're like, we need a win from somewhere, by hook or by crook. We've
Hmm.
got to get a win from somewhere. So this next stage of games is absolutely vital.
Yeah.
Absolutely vital.
Yeah. Just to throw a question for you, just to come away from this topic quite a bit. It sort of ties to it, but it doesn't. Did you see the Man City ATP ruling settlement?
Yeah, I don't quite know what to make of that, because there was something to do with they reached an out of court settlement where there was a certain amount of money that was paid to the Premier League, I guess, as a fine, but Manchester City could still proceed with the associated party ownership, but the
Yeah.
rules were still going to be put in place. So I don't understand what the precedent there is, because does that mean that if Aston Villa or any other club use this ruling, they would just have to pay a certain amount of money to get the agreement in place with the Premier League? Is that
And
how
this
it
is
is
what I
now?
was going, yeah, and this is what I was kind of going to bring up because Man City have gotten away with this, and the rest of the leagues. Now, this is separate to the 115 charges. Now that has been said, but if Man City are getting away with this, the likes of Newcastle, Villa, any other club who have these associated parties for sponsorship should clearly be allowed to use it, because Man City's rub a fuss about Newcastle supposedly doing this thing and the rules were put in place and everything else to stop all this. But now that they paid a settlement, that should mean, in my opinion, right, you paid a settlement for whatever fine it is, where you kind of get rid of that. But that should mean you should no longer be able to do your associated sponsorship deals from now on. So whenever they expire, that's it. You can't go for them again. But yet they can still kind of go ahead with Etihad. It just doesn't smell right for me, in my opinion, that if they're allowed to do it,
And I don't think they wanted to go
and
down the
it's the
full
same for
legal
Ineos
route.
at
I
Man
think,
United.
yeah.
Could Man
It
United have Ineos
yeah,
now as
it's unfortunately for the Premier League, it's come to the point where they don't have the financial muscle that the clubs that are owned by Saudi governments, or Saudi royalty, or countries. Look at, like, Newcastle will be able. They won't. The Premier League won't have the financial muscle to take the public investment fund to court, anymore? Because if they can't take the Saudi princes to court in terms of, or the UAE princes to court in terms of Manchester City, then there's no way they're going to take the Saudi investment fund to court. No
No.
way, because
But
they
it's
haven't
not
got
even
the
just the
money.
Saudis. I think it's all Premier League clubs, because if you look at
Yeah.
all the clubs, mostly they're all billionaires, mostly. So I don't think they'll have the financial muscle to challenge any club, in my opinion, Rich. Because if we look at our owners, we have two billionaire owners in there.
Mm.
I think we're considered the fifth or sixth richest team in the league. So they're not going to have the financial muscle to challenge anybody. So I think if one team's getting away with it, just hang on a minute here. These rules are put in place to stop this. So if their deals expire and then they're announcing another £400 million deal with the same party, why can't we do it? So
Yeah, well,
it's going to cause a big uproar and a short.
it's gonna be very interesting. Gonna be very, very interesting. But back to the four games that we've got. So you're saying minimum 10 to 12 needed. Are you confident that that's going to happen now?
I can't say now for sure that I'm going to be confident, but if we get 2 wins out of 2 from the Everton Sunderland game, I can kind of go into a confidence in the Fulham and Burnley, because we need to pick up our home form again. Albeit I know that was the first time we lost there in a year, but that being said, we need to make it a fortress again, because if we fall into this crack of, our home form is starting to slip, you can't get away from that. So we need to make sure that Villa Park is still a fortress. Just because we had one bad defeat doesn't mean that it's still not a fortress. It's still a fortress. Then I would have the confidence of going in to try and get 10 to 12 points easily.
Yeah. A few questions, and then I'll get you a couple of sort of outside of Aston Villa perspective on a couple of points. Peter says, any word on Kamara and Onana availability? I heard that Emery was aiming for the Fulham game on the 27th or 28th for them to be fit.
I had heard Onana was going to be fit for Bologna. Kamara was going to be fit for Fulham.
Right, yeah. So around that time.
Around the area.
Around that time. Yeah, so sort of end of September, I think. So certainly not this week. And then someone asked about Garcia. Bob Zini said, what's going on with Garcia? I don't know. I know he's injured, but I've not seen any pictures of him in training. So that's an interesting one. But I don't think he'll feature for the first team much at all. I think had he not been injured, I don't think.
I love him. I do. I think there's a player in him. I really do. I think
could well be, but I just think he's one of these players like the Nedeljkovic, like one or two others, like the Illing Juniors, who won't actually feature for the first team. They're kind of just signed for Villa to almost be pass through the club and make a couple of million on. I think that's ultimately what they're going to be doing. Bit of news away from Aston Villa. Tottenham and Nottingham Forest have been in the press of late. Daniel Levy has gone from Tottenham. A lot of fans worried about now Tottenham and their spending power now that Daniel Levy's kind of mitts aren't controlling the spending. How do you feel about Tottenham now? Are they a real threat to the champions? Are they a threat to become champions of the Premier League?
Look, this thing of Tottenham don't spend money is a myth. It's as simple as that. We've seen them spend money every single summer. We've seen them spend £50 million on a Van der Ven, 40 million on a Romero, 60 million on a Richarlison. We've seen them spend money in the past. We've seen them do it. This myth to believe that Tottenham don't spend money. Tottenham do spend money. They just don't spend it wisely. There's a difference. And they seem to kind of slip away from the media as such, in my opinion, because the likes of your Man United, your Liverpool, Man Cities, Chelsea's, Arsenal's are spending more. They're just spending more. But Tottenham do spend the money. It's not as if they don't, they do. But the other 5 clubs out of the big 6 spend more than Tottenham because they have more revenue than Tottenham. I just think that, are they going to be a financial threat? I don't know, because you have to realize, though, Rich, look at the players they bought in the past with Levy in charge. What's to say it's going to change? Because if you've got Tottenham and Arsenal coming for you, who are you picking? You're going to pick Arsenal. Look at Eze, for example. You'd agreed terms with Tottenham, but then guess what? Arsenal came knocking in the door. Regardless of what you say about his past previouses with being in the academy for Arsenal, he jumped at the gun to join Arsenal. You know, we've seen it time and time again. Players would rather join the other five than Tottenham Hotspur. And I'm not saying Tottenham's not a big club. They are a big club. But there's clubs bigger. It's the same as us. If you put Man United in front of us and Aston Villa, who's the player going to pick? He's probably going to pick Man United because it's the bigger club. He's going to get the big bucks of wages. And that's just the reality of it. So I don't think Tottenham are going to be this financial superpower as people are putting them down to be, that, oh, that's what they're doing. Daniel Levy, I think, in his time has spent close to over 1.5 billion as the Tottenham chairman in terms of signing. Now, that to me, now I know he's been there for 20 plus years and you might do the maths, but that to me says he does spend
a lot of money. Yeah,
he does.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it was more to do with like kind of their wages to revenue turnover. It was always quite low. So maybe they'll relax the purse.
Yeah, because their revenue, I think they get like nearly 500 million plus a year.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. But you know, I think you're right. I think you're bang on. It's not like they're going to be paying peanuts for their players per week. So yeah, it's interesting to think all of a sudden they're going to be able to spend all this money because, as Stephen said, that you know there's still the same FFP rules and PSR rules. Although you know what the big six get away with, it'll probably all of a sudden be relaxed for them. And then also just to kind of round it off. Big change that our friends Nottingham Forest.
Oh.
Kevin said he thinks Forest will struggle under Ange. They've gone from ultra defensive under Nuno to an ultra highline attack in a blur. It's not going to end well. I was on with the Loaded Mag boys earlier. We had Wolfie on from Forest Fan TV who was trying to put a brave face on it. But I think the general consensus is, I think it was, they saw it as a bit of an inevitability that Ange would come in, but I don't think it's a particular popular choice. And how do you see this marriage of Marinakis and Ange Postecoglou going? Because it doesn't, there's two massive characters. I know they're really good friends off the pitch, but I don't know how this is gonna fare.
Yeah, this seems to be, he was only sacked due to relationship issues with the club. And it's bad form in my opinion. Now, I'm on the reason to believe, because I've been informed that, you know, Nuno and Edu don't get along. Yes. Because there was promises from the chairman that Nuno was going to have a say on transfers, blah, 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 blah. But then Edu comes in and supposedly he was promised that he wanted to have all the final say. But now all of a sudden there's this clash because Edu was going to sign the players he wanted. Nuno didn't get that. There was a clash then, an ownership clash then in Edu, and supposedly Nuno put the players in front and Edu said, "No, this is who you're getting." And then that was the case that I've heard. Now with Big Ange, I don't look. He wins things in the second season, mate. So
championship. Look, you win the championship trophy in the second season to get him back promoted.
It's still a trophy at the end of the day, Rich. But I just think that I don't think Forest fans should punish Ange for the situation that was put in their hand with Nuno and ownership and everything else. I don't think
no. I don't think they'll blame Ange.
No, I think I know they won't. I know where they'll point the finger, but I just don't like the Forest fans coming out saying, "Why are we hiring Ange? Like there was better managers out there." But let's be honest, was there really better managers out there?
Well, I think they would talk about Glasner and Marco Silva and one or two others, but yeah, I don't think they're blaming Ange for the sacking. I think a lot of Forest fans understand the fact that Nuno had to go. As soon as he kind of spoke out against the owner in public in a press conference, I think they knew the writing was on
It
the
was
wall.
going to happen.
I think the point that they're worried about in it is everyone knows how Ange Postecoglou plays, so he hasn't necessarily got the shock factor that he had when he first went into Tottenham. If you're going off of history of last season, then Spurs were an absolute disaster in the Premier League and really just luckily got the win in the, luckily went for the Europa League and got that over the line, which was a really real success for them. But teams know how he plays. He plays his high line. He plays intense pressing, injuries galore. So I think just Forest fans are just worried about this, about what's going to happen to their clubs. So what's going to happen to their club? So but I'm loving it. I'm all for it. If it all goes Pete Tong, then we're going to be able to take advantage of it, and at least the heat will be off Aston Villa in their start to the season.
But what I will say is that they've gone from ultra defensive to this high press, high line. These players are not going to suit Ange's counter-attacking, ball retention system. It was clearly, it shows under Nuno, this is the system they should be playing. So you're probably right in a Glasner and a Marco Silva where they could get the tunes out of these players. They've just gone completely left with disappointment. And like I said, I'm not punching Ange on this, but they should have looked at the players. The system they were playing under and says, right, go for manager similar to Nuno and see where it goes.
Yeah. Well, it is going to be interesting, but there is never a dull moment in this Premier League, and it will be back from Saturday. Martin, it's been an absolute pleasure having you back on the Fans Forum. Thank you for all of your comments and questions in as well, people watching. Please do hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Help us continue on the road now to 10,000 subscribers. We'll be back with an Everton preview. I'm going to the game on Saturday, so I will do my best around the game to do instant reaction, Lions Raw match reaction, talking tactics will be back as well with Gareth. We'll also have, you name it, we'll have whatever show that we are going to do. So stay tuned to the channel. Thank you everyone for watching, and as always, remember, we all follow the Villa.